It didn't take long for me to realize that something was amiss. Usually nobody would suspect me, the quiet little bookworm, of having so many creepy little fetishes. It wasn't as if I didn't know that such things were wrong. It's just that I didn't think any harm could be done if I just thought about them and didn't act. Only one part of the whole thing began to worry me. I used to separate what I do to soothe my hormones and what I did to soothe my mind separately. Then I found myself disgusted when I noticed what the combination of both did to me. It scared me, and eventually that fear grew into excitement. Soon, this became my little piece of paradise. I knew it was sick, but letting my imagination roam was completely harmless, right? I remember just falling back on my bed behind a locked door and letting my hands slip between my legs, finding a fulfilling satisfaction as I closed my eyes and let my fingers tease me. This wasn't too different from what I had done as a teenager, but however, what was on my mind was quite different. I used to think of boys or girls I wanted to lure to my bedroom, but was always too shy to. But this was different. My imagination transformed my room into a dusty and dark place with blood-stained sheets. In fact, the coppery scent of blood overtook my senses for a moment, only to cause me to snap back to reality. When I opened my eyes, the smell was gone. I always did have a powerful imagination. This continued for a few more months. Every time, the thoughts got more and more vivid. I knew I should find all this disturbing, but I loved it. I would embrace it, and it would become a new, nasty little thing that I could get off on. I only shook myself from one thought that kept returning. I kept mutilating my lover. I remember in that repeating thought I had his wrists, his ankles tied to the bedpost. It was just a normal daydream of my playroom. That is, until I started stabbing him and slicing him. I usually snapped out of it at this point, yet my heart still raced, and I still wanted it so badly. It wouldn't let me go. I carved my name into his chest as he screamed in pain. His cries were my ecstasy. And though he struggled and flailed, I only stayed where I was. No amount of what he could do while bound could buck me off. I admired my work. Of course, he began to plead and curse me, but I refused to hear it all. I removed his tie that I was wearing and slowly choked him until his body quit thrashing. He had lost consciousness. I looked down on him. He looked like he was sleeping. He looked so peaceful. Normally something like that would warm my heart, but there was something wrong. He wasn't smiling. I drew my knife across his mouth, carving a smile onto his face. He awoke as I was just finishing, screaming and thrashing all over again. Oh, I wanted to look at him. I wanted to see that pretty smile. I wanted to see my name in the way that it marred his perfect skin. But he wouldn't let that happen. I kissed his bloody mouth. He cried, and I licked away the tears. The tears and the blood mixing only made my heart race. It was like I was in love for the first time. I opened my eyes this time. I opened them, and then I saw that it wasn't my imagination anymore. I pulled my mouth from his and stared down at him. Tears continued to streak his cheeks, and the fresh wounds I had left on his face were still bleeding. My heart was throbbing in my chest. The blood smell was still here. His body is still under me. It wasn't my imagination. What about all those other things I dreamed up? Had I done those too? I stared down into those accusing eyes. I could hear him trying to say something, but he was too hoarse from his screams to even speak. For some reason, I felt no regret. I knew I should, but I didn't. A grin began to creep over my face. I felt the corners of my lips being tugged at, Even though I knew this was no time to be smiling, still half naked, I leaned over him only to whisper sweetly, "Baby, you've made me so happy." Afterwards, I curled my arms around him to sleep. I don't know what made me do that. I don't know if I really cared at the time or if I was just happy with what I turned him into. He was mine now. Even if he got away from me somehow, I don't think anyone would want him now. We had broken up a few times previously, and I knew that he had seen other women, but who would want him now? He's all mine. I kept him tied down, and I kept feeding him and giving him water. He refused the first few times, but eventually he just let it happen. He caved to my will. I told him what a good boy he was, and he only sobbed and kept repeating one thing. Why? Why? Soon, his friends had realized that they hadn't seen him. They must have known something had happened. When they arrived, they shoved past me, only to find him in the state I had left him in. I knew that my games were over. That's how I got where I am now, in this institution. I never heard from him again, but now I have other focuses. I close my eyes and my fantasies come to life. I'm actually quite happy this way. I only regret one thing. I wish I could taste his blood and tears again. Or, really, anyone's will do.